Hey everybody, it's JJ and we're back again for another ASUS PCDIY hardware live stream. I think this is actually episode 125 that we're going to be having. So happy Friday. Hopefully everybody is enjoying a good week, ending things out on a positive, productive footing. We're excited to be able to go ahead and talk about a good number of new additions in terms of some new product announcements and things that we're going to be actually talking about for this stream. I think one, we've got a new dual mode LCD that we're going to be talking about. That's actually going to be a follow-up to our prior XG27UCG. So we're going to actually have the XG27UCS or Gen 2. I believe this is the UCSR. We're also going to touch on the availability for the ROG Falchion Ace 75HE. We've got the ROG Strix Scope II 96 RX, so that's going to be the actual ROG RX-based switches. The ROG Cetra Open Wireless, actually TWSs, which actually we showed off at CES. I think those are actually a really nice addition and update that we have. A couple of promotions we have going on for some cool networking stuff. So if you've actually been looking to maybe finally upgrade to Wi-Fi 7, we've actually, I think, got 3 or 4 promotions that are pretty cool that I think I'm going to be pretty excited to be able to go ahead and touch on. Availability for the actual upcoming TUF Gaming B850 Wi-Fi Neo board, which I think this is actually the first for the B850 refresh models that are actually going to be available that we previously talked about in our first preview live stream. Some updates on the TUF Gaming LC III series cooler, and actually a new addition to the ROG thermal compound. So for some of those of you that might have been watching the stream and remember previously we of course launched our ROG 07 thermal compound, we've actually got another update which is going to be for the ROG I believe 05 thermal compound. So yeah, we're going to be talking about quite a number of things. Let's see who we have actually joining us for the stream. Hey man, fantastic party time. I guess a little bit of party time, maybe party time when you're checking out the stream, man. Fantastic. Thanks for joining us here. We've got Ralph joining us. Hey, fantastic, man. Hey, Julian, thank you so much for joining the stream. Always happy to have you here. Thank you so much. Ralph is joining us. Waiting for that Chronox chassis. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I can give you a little bit of a soft update. As of right now, we were actually hoping to release the Chronox, I think, in March, but I think based on the last update we just got from our team, although things could always change a little bit as we come out for the Chinese New Year, which our team is currently actually on CNY, so Chinese New Year, that means that kind of things slow down for a little bit of period of time. I would expect probably availability to now be a little bit closer to early Q1 for the overall release for the Chronox. So if you've been waiting for that ROG tempered glass, beautiful chassis, we're super excited about it. And right now, I believe tentatively we have a confirmation that we're looking to probably have 3 models in terms of 3 versions. We'll have the white, the black. We'll have one which actually has no fans, where they're going to have another model which I think will have, I think, a select number of fans pre-installed, and then another model which will have 10 ARGB fans that are going to be pre-installed in the unit. So I think that is actually going to be pretty cool. Thanks for noting there on the music. Let me go ahead and get that off there. Yeah, so thank you so much. Yeah, so thanks. Overall, let's get ready to go ahead and jump into things here, and we'll see how things are coming along. Let me know if that sounds good for you guys. Went ahead and made a couple of little changes here, so I don't know if the volume levels I have previously are actually holding in, or if I need to adjust that a little bit. But yeah, I think I've gone ahead and removed the background music, so I think we should be okay on that side, so no worries there. So let's get ready to go ahead, I guess, and jump into some of the new updates that we have in terms of products. So I'm going to go ahead and let me actually open up here. Give me 1 second, and we'll go here. I'll touch on this. So where do I want to put this banner for you guys? Make it easy. I don't have my secondary monitor set up, so this is going to limit a little bit of how I wanted to preview some of these pages for you guys, but we'll do our best here as we go ahead and retrofit in this little bit of the setup here. And we'll do it like this. Yeah, so give me 1 second there, and we'll do that. So I think the first item that we're going to go ahead and touch on here is going to be the ROG Strix XG27UCS Gen 2. So for those of you guys that are watching the stream right now, I'd love to know from your perspective, you know, what do you guys generally have you guys actually utilized a dual mode monitor before? So having actually a monitor that actually offers 2 different functional resolutions. Now, of course, with any standard display, you have the ability that you can go and do like a non-native resolution. So if you had, let's say, a 4K monitor, you can actually render it at 1080p, or you can render it at 1440p, and it stretches out the entirety of the screen. A little bit different now, though, with these dual mode based displays is that generally there's a kind of display that allows for some integer scaling from one resolution to a generally a lower resolution, but it also has generally also introduced a secondary refresh rate target. And so with this actually 4K monitor that's a dual mode based design, you actually have a 4K 160 hertz native operation. That would be great for general desktop productivity, for even open world immersive gameplay, things in environments where you really want to be able to see kind of the most detail and the most I think sharp presentation. And then you actually have a higher refresh rate based option, which might be maybe for more competitive gameplay scenarios, especially for those of you who might enjoy kind of more competitive maps, first person shooter environments, things along those lines. And that's actually specifically what this monitor brings to the table with its dual mode operation, where you have a 4K 160 hertz, and then you're going to have a secondary refresh rate option, which is going to actually be a FHD toggle, so a 1080p refresh rate at 324 hertz. So it's actually going to allow for some pretty flexibility. So let's go ahead and see there. Give me 1 second here, and we're going to go ahead and adjust this a little bit and set this up. So I'm going to go here and tweak this for you guys. So give me 1 second. All right, there we go. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at this monitor. This is going to be for the XG27UCS. And I'm wondering, for those of you that are running your current monitor, what's your current refresh rate and resolution you're running? And have you actually used a dual mode monitor before? So the monitor that we're going to touch on here is going to be this guy. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. All right, and so we're going to take a look here at this one, which is going to be the ROG XG27UCS Gen 2. So this is an update from the prior generation that we had. It's going to be using the new XG series styling body. So a really nice, clean, compact design. You're going to have 3 nice thin bezels on there. You get that nice that weighted metal base design, which I think looks really clean, really compact, really minimal for a lot of desk setups. Price point on this, I think, is going to be really nice. So $400. So it's not super expensive, but you're really going to be able to get a great upgrade in terms of one, probably for most of you don't have a high PPI based monitor like this, a 4K based monitor. You're also going to get higher than standard brightness. This is also what's called a wide gamut monitor. So that means that the saturation and the color presentation is really quite good. It's actually higher than standard in terms of the sRGB for standard sRGB content. And then, of course, it's wide gamut, which is especially notable, I would say, within gaming scenarios. You're going to have, of course, all the comprehensive options that we offer on our ROG LCD displays, such as like a 20-stage advanced variable overdrive, technologies like our ELMB or backlight strobing technology, and many other items that are all kind of built in. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the kind of key specifications that we have here. So again, 27 inches, fast IPS. This is going to support, of course, VRR technology, so G-Sync compatible or also FreeSync. 95% DCI-P3, so that's going to be great in terms of the actual coverage. You're going to have the dual mode operation. So again, that's 4K 160 hertz, and then an FHD toggle at 324 hertz. ELMB sync, which is actually our backlight strobing technology, which can also work in combination with variable refresh rate. In the past, normally you would usually lose VRR support when you actually would engage ELMB or essentially a backlight strobing. So it's cool to be able to actually maintain both of those. Display widget center, which I'm a big fan. For those of you who are not aware, of course, pretty much all of our current ASUS displays and displays that we've had for actually even a couple of years offer display widget center, which is our software, which allows you to control the OSD, but in the operating system. So instead of physically having to kind of touch the buttons on the monitor, you can go ahead and adjust things like your brightness. You can change your contrast. You can have specific color profiles matched to different programs or games. Like I really like being able to set up, let's say, sRGB for maybe my browser, and then maybe I want racing mode for Forza, and then maybe I want, in Counter-Strike, I want FPS, or maybe I want to be able to enable things like, dynamic shadow boost to specific one game, but maybe I don't want it in another game. So that's actually a really cool option that you have. It's called App Tweaker, which is built into Display Widget Center. Also, pro tip for those of you that really like to actually be able to kind of customize your experience on the fly, you can actually set up custom key bindings in Display Widget Center for common items that you might want to adjust. So take, for instance, like brightness. Maybe you want your monitor a bit brighter in the daytime, but maybe in the nighttime you want to be able to bring down the brightness. It's a little bit too bright for you. You can actually set up a custom key binding for just brightness, and then you can quickly toggle up and down the brightness. Similar to kind of actually have like a brightness option on many laptops. That's actually an option that you can enable in terms of key binding. So again, I'm a really big fan of our Display Widget Center software. That dual mode operation that we talked about, of course, there's a quick and easy toggle key to allow you to switch between those two operating parameters. Our advanced variable overdrive, this is really important to be able to maintain really good motion clarity across the refresh rate range. We also offer the best in the industry in terms of the number of granular steps between our variable overdrive. It's a 20-stage variable overdrive that allows you to really tune it based on your preference in terms of the visual presentation, as well as also the game engine that you're playing with. So this is kind of one of those details that sometimes gets overlooked when you're talking about kind of looking at a competitor's display, or even if you compare this to, let's say, our TUF Gaming series monitors to our ROG Strix series monitors. The ROG Strix monitors are going to have a more advanced variable overdrive implementation. Of course, all ROG displays are factory calibrated, so that means that we color check them actually at the production end and help to ensure great color experience right out of the box, so you don't have to worry about anything. You got DP and HDMI and also Type-C. The Type-C is going to be only minimal for power delivery, so 15 watts. That's going to be fine for be able to power, like, you know, keyboard, mice, basic accessories that you want to be able to quick charge, maybe things like like a set of headphones or things along those lines. But you do also have USB-C display port support, so that means that you can go ahead and connect this to something like, you know, maybe a mini PC or a laptop or a gaming handheld or different types of items that have a USB-C display out. You can also be able to go ahead and route the display processing through there. You're going to have comprehensive ergonomic adjustment of this unit. So this is 4-way ergonomic adjustment. So pretty much all of the ways that you would want to be able to adjust the display, you can go ahead and adjust the display. And one other item that I'd like to go ahead and touch on here is, let me see if we have it actually in the images. Is going to be the threaded mount design. Sometimes people actually miss this feature, but right there you can see at actually the top of the display we have a threaded mount. The threaded mount allows you to easily add like a camera, light, or a microphone, so you can attach that right to the top of the monitor, allowing you to have a really nice kind of clean and simple setup. So I think this is going to be a great addition that we have in terms of our lineup. So if you've been looking to maybe step up from maybe an older 1080p high refresh rate display or 1440p high refresh rate, you wanted to be able to go into the 4K segmentation high refresh rate, also be able to have an improvement in terms of motion clarity for maybe more competitive game titles. Having this dual mode operation, I think, is a great option. So coming in at $399, available now, the XG27UCSR. Okay, and this follows up our most recent announcement as well for another higher end option. If you want to even be able to go to a higher resolution, we have the XG27 JCG. So that's going to be a 27-inch 5K 180 hertz refresh rate, and then a 1440p 330 hertz refresh rate, and that one will be coming in at $850. That one is not yet available, but it'll be available probably sometime next month in terms of its overall availability. I'm going to go ahead and drop that one in the chat for you guys before we go over to our next product, but let me quickly see if there was any questions on that specific monitor. So give me 1 second here and we'll take a look there. Let me drop this one in the chat for you guys. Hey, Sue, man, happy to have you here, man. Thanks for joining us here on the stream, man. Always good to have you here. Let's see right here. We've got Pure goes, man, hey, man, you guys really cook something special with the ROG Falcata. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the ROG Falcata. Actually, I want to get my sample in to permanently have it here. I'm a really big fan. You know, I've got a little bit bigger frame. I'm 6'2", and I have a larger, you know, arm span. And one of the things that sometimes people don't realize, and one of the reasons why I loved actually our Claymore keyboard or a 75% a keyboard, is that when you don't actually have the extended size of a traditional keyboard, right, you actually reduce what's called pronation. So normally if your arm's kind of swinging out like this and you're holding it and you're typing out like this, you're putting a lot of strain here on this kind of labrum and on this area right here. So when you can actually compress in your arms and you can keep it into a more natural resting position, it's far more comfortable. It's better for ergonomics. It's better for your overall typing experience. And of course, the Falcata is really an amazing keyboard in the respect because it brings advanced ergonomics and customization in terms of being able to do tenting, decoupled actually setup as well to be able to go ahead and maximize even more flexibility in terms of being able to kind of set it up based on what works best for your body and for your layout, but also giving you amazing performance and gaming grade functionality. So it's a really unique offering. It is definitely a premium keyboard, but I think alongside what I've seen that what we've done with, you know, our flagship series products like the ROG Azoth. The Azoth is actually what I have right here. The Azoth Extreme, the Falcata, the Ace series. Actually, I'm going to be talking about the Ace and the Scope in a little bit as well. I think we really have an amazing lineup of keyboards that, regardless of what your kind of preference is, whether you want to be able to go with something that's super customizable, super premium in feel, you know, great in terms of the connectivity options, whatever, we're going to have a great option for you. So thanks, man, for the feedback on there. Let's go ahead and see if there's any other questions that kind of came up in there. Suman says, yeah, the Falcata is good. Got one as my main for gaming. Oh, that's really cool, man. Fantastic. Yeah. Level 06 is there any plans to make an ROG Strix card for Radeon products? Yeah, so I think from our perspective, as I'd say right now, we don't have any plans to make an ROG Strix variant for any current Radeon. Right now, our flagship series Radeon products are going to be for the highest end. They're going to be our TUF Gaming series, right? So TUF Gaming 9070 like XT series product. But of course, you know, we're a tier 1 partner with AMD. Nobody actually has more products in terms of their product ecosystem than ASUS in coordination with AMD. You know, we offer the absolute best graphics cards on the market. I will put our TUF Gaming 9070 XT against any manufacturer. I think the build quality, our PCB design, our thermal solution, you know, all of the touches that we have on there are outstanding. We do, of course, even have a higher tier in terms of specialized features and functions and aesthetics that we have within the ROG ecosystem, whether it's ROG Strix or ROG Astral. And I think if AMD is ever going to come to market with even higher performing GPUs, you can definitely feel confident that you'll see that within the ROG ecosystem of different types of options that we would put out there. But as of right now, you're going to continue to see that what we'll offer within, I'd say, the Radeon product portfolio from ASUS, I'll be the Dual Series, the Prime Series, and as well as the TUF Gaming series. So those are going to be the current GPUs that we're going to have available. Beyond that, of course, you can get ROG for many other product categories within AMD, because of course we just launched the flagship ROG Glacial, which I would say that there are some users that would love to see a Glacial on maybe an Intel-based platform like we've had in the past, but right now the Glacial is exclusively available for AMD. Or we just launched 2 new BTF solutions for AMD as well, right? So yeah, we're going to continue to be able to try to offer the most comprehensive portfolio across all of the different categories. And there's always, you know, interest and demand for us to have even more product offerings, but it's a challenge in terms of offering, I think, additional products in alignment with the demand that we see actually from the community, for people are actually going to buy them, you know, month to month to month to month, right? Yeah. So let me see here. Really want something with more bling and colors like the Strix colors or designs. That's interesting because the Strix doesn't have more color to it, right? I mean, it depends, I think, on the generation, right? In the prior generation, the 4090, which we kind of broke apart from multiple years of having a more monochromatic design. We did introduce color there, but as a whole, generally Strix doesn't inherently mean that it has more color. I would say that it generally does have more RGB lighting. On the TUF Gaming series, we have just a minimal RGB accent there on the side of the card, which I think looks quite nice. And that's also, I think, something that we even evolved a little bit more in the current generation than we had in the prior gen. But definitely appreciate that feedback. I mean, it's always going to be a balancing act to be able to, again, offer more and more choice, right, for the consumer. And I think, again, that's going to be really being driven by the user base, right? If we get enough consistent demand from users saying, hey, we want to be able to see this in this color, we want to be able to see this option, rest assured, I feel very confident that we'll come to that, right? But it's a balancing act of making sure that as we produce the product, right, that there's enough demand within the community for us to produce that product, right? And actually, Justin made a point there, right? We actually just recently launched a special edition version of a card that we'd actually just put out for AMD, which also offers a little bit kind of more variation. So again, we're committed to be able to kind of do some stuff. I think also we previously did in another special edition was the Warhammer edition card, which was pretty cool. So we're going to continue to kind of do things that I think are distinct and interesting. And I think we talked about this in the prior stream, but I know one thing that we've talked about a little bit with our team is maybe that for future design iterations, you know, one of the big challenges when you talk about kind of designing accessories for different types of products is going to be those products actually having to be able to exist within a production landscape that actually has to sit with an inventory for different e-tailers and retailers. And that can actually be quite challenging. So one of the things that we've maybe evaluated talking about internally is maybe having our design team have customized STL files for things like maybe specialized accent pieces that can be put on motherboards, or maybe even having something like the shroud on the graphics card. So let's see if I can pull out a card here. So maybe something like this. So here, this is like our dual series card. But imagine maybe something like the shroud, we would develop a custom STL file and you could print the STL file. And then in that regard, whether it was maybe like a base primed material that you could then paint yourself, or maybe also you can have it printed in different types of colors, right? Especially with new types of resin printers or multicolor filament-based printers, you could do some really interesting dynamic things. So that's actually something that we're evaluating as far as maybe saying like, hey, could we produce like an STL shroud file, give that to the community, and then that would allow users to go to a greater extent to be able to customize things with different types of colors. Because I think even things like the introduction of white, you know, something that a lot of people don't realize is that even just going from white to black when the tooling is the same, or you think it's the same, it's actually not the same. The reason being is like when we actually do tooling for black and you compare that to the tooling for white, you can actually have markers or indicators that might show up on the white tooling. And that means that you actually might have to redo the entire tooling just for white, because there might actually be certain items that wouldn't have been visible before under the black tooling. So that actually adds even more cost and complexity. And especially when the consumer wants to be able to have like parity in cost, where they go, well, the white and the black should be the same cost, even though the white might be more complicated or more expensive for us to produce. Then you add in other color variations and it can become even more complicated and more problematic from a cost and production standpoint. So there's a lot of little things that we have to kind of keep in mind. But I think the fact right now that we're making as much as what we are making, and within the diversified segmentation that we offer with between white and black, I think is unmatched in the industry. I don't think really any company is giving you as much choice as what we're offering. So I think we're excited to do that. And hopefully for the future, maybe we can do what I've talked about there with stuff like the custom STLs to be able to kind of do some interesting things there, right? All right. Let me see, before I get to my next product here, I'm going to be talking about one of our keyboards here with the ROG Falchion, but I'll go ahead and answer one other question here, because we're going to be, I think, a little bit lighter on the total number of products that we're going to talk about this week. So let me go ahead and just see right here. What is this question? Any reason that the ProArt pre-built desktops are discontinued or out of stock? I'm not sure what you mean by ProArt pre-built desktops. I don't know what you might be referring to, ProArt pre-built desktop. And also this is the ASUS OPBG, a PCDIY stream. So if you're not familiar, ASUS is actually structured in two different entities. We actually have what we call our SBG team. Our SBG team is our systems business group, and they handle things like our laptops, our gaming handhelds, our pre-built desktop type of products. So that's one actually team, and an entire actually owned structure. And then we have our OPBG team. And our OPBG team is our open platform business group. And that actually covers everything that ASUS does, from core components to peripherals to servers and workstation to our mini PC solutions, our monitors, our networking products. So everything else falls underneath there. So when you talk about something that might be pre-built, actually, I might not have too much visibility on that, because that's actually a different team. That's an entirely different business group than the business group that I focus under, which is our open platform business. So on this stream, we only focus on the OPBG ecosystem for things that are more on the system related side. So again, laptops, the gaming handhelds, and pre-built desktops. I would recommend you check out the ROG Pulse podcast and stream. Jake and Winston over there do a great job to touch on some of those things. They don't dive into as many products as I talk about on this stream. And if you're really interested, definitely let me know and we can try to find out more information for you. You can also consider joining our ASUS PCDIY community. Let me see if I can throw up the little QR code for you guys if you guys haven't joined. But yeah, it should be right there. You guys can see the little QR code. That's for our ASUS PCDIY Harpe community. You can feel free to join us there and tag one of the actual moderators of the group, and they can help to look into whatever specific question you had. But to my knowledge, I'm not aware of what you're referring to in terms of specific pre-built desktop. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, let's go from there. So next product here is going to be the keyboard, and this is going to be the ROG Falchion Ace. So Ace, if you're not aware, is a newer designation that we kind of brought out in 2025. So that's generally going to be usually a focus at kind of competitive gaming, kind of esports, and definitely that's what you have here with the ROG Falchion Ace, the 75. So 75 is a TKL form factor, so it's reduced from something like a 96% size, which would also include things like a numpad. So again, we're keeping the form factor compact and tight. So that's Ace, again, gives you that designation for kind of esports competitive gaming. 75% is giving us that TKL kind of form factor, right? And then HE means Hall effect, because this is going to be utilizing the ROG Hall effect technology. So let's go ahead and take a look at this model. Again, availability is actually right now $220 for this model. And this is a really, really cool unit in terms of actually its overall feature set. One, you're going to have our ultra performant ROG Hall effect based switches. Now, some people ask, what's really the benefit between a Hall effect switch and a mechanical a traditional mechanical switch, right? And in reality, actually, some people say that the actuation performance is better. It's not. The actual actuation performance, or the overall relative latency between a Hall effect switch and then a mechanical switch, is almost identical, assuming that they're both of a high quality design. And that would be the case for ROG. If you get like an ROG Snow switch, which is what we use in something like the ROG ASUS X, right, and numerous other keyboards, you're going to have a super fast, consistent, reliable actuation experience. Really, the key benefit of a Hall effect based switch is going to be its customization of the actuation experience. That means that when you go ahead and trigger the actual switch itself, you can change where the triggering is occurring. And this can be beneficial potentially for certain types of game scenarios. Generally going to be competitive games, right, where really kind of that input is going to matter. And so you can customize that to specific type of gameplay scenarios, gameplay styles, and kind of what you prefer in terms of the overall kind of input experience. If you're not going to customize it, then you're really not bringing any value to the Hall effect switch. You can still get a great typing experience. I would say that we took a while to really fine tune and make sure that our Hall effect switches offered a pretty comparable experience to the mechanical switches, which I think overall had a better feel and better sound profile. But now you can pretty much have almost about a comparable experience. I still think mechanical switches probably have a slight edge in terms of their overall sound profile and feel a little bit compared to a Hall effect switch, but they're both quite good in that regard. So some of the cool things you're going to get on this keyboard that I think are really going to highlight the value prop that ASUS and ROG are bringing within this model is going to be, one is this rapid trigger toggle. So one of the disadvantages is that when you customize the WASD key, or whichever key that you're going to be using in terms of the Hall effect based switch, is that you wouldn't generally want to use that for normally like daily driving. Let's say you're like typing up an email, or you're web browsing, you're posting something on YouTube or Reddit, you're checking out, some websites, whatever it might be. A customized actuation experience is not very good experience for normally daily driving your keyboard. The cool thing that we have is that we actually have this immediate toggle, which allows you to immediately kind of go from standard mode and it being enabled to then being disabled. So it's really easy to be able to kind of go from daily driver to a specific gaming mode, and all you got to do is just use that toggle switch. We also don't, the default enablement for the rapid trigger functionality is only going to be for the WASD keys, as opposed to all the keys, again, because that would kind of fragment your experience when you talk about kind of a normally gaming to a daily driver. Another thing that I really like is this little actually adjustment wheel. Now, normally when you're kind of trying to fine tune the experience for a custom actuation, it can be actually quite tedious, because you would normally in the past, like especially with some competitors, you got to open up the software and you got to be alt tabbing in and out, like adjusting it in software, then going back in, adjusting in software, going back in. And that kind of really breaks the experience. Having something like this adjustment wheel makes it really nice, because you can essentially enable it on, and then from there you could be in the game and just adjust the wheel, and that allows for a really precise kind of smooth level of actuation adjustment. And once you find that, then of course you can maintain that setting that you've gone ahead and dialed in, but allows you to kind of do it in game, as opposed to kind of have to have this fractured experience from going in and out, in and out, in and out. So I'm a really big fan of that. And the same thing too, also generally going with a more compact keyboard means you lose sometimes functionality. I love the fact here where you can see that we also maintain things like this multifunction button and touch panel. So this is really nice, because you can use these things for like media control, for lighting effects, for custom commands that you can go in, you can customize in our software suite. So while you even still have a compact keyboard, you have a lot of flexibility to be able to have things, again, like the media control, lighting adjustments, or customized commands, right? Maybe you want a specific application to launch, or maybe you want to close an application, or maybe you want to mute something, right? You can do a lot of different kind of customized profiles. And Keep in mind, all of our keyboards have up to 5 onboard profiles that are programmable. So that means you can have individualized profiles. Like I have that set up, like I've got a Windows desktop profile, and then I've got a specific game profile that I have for just like more of my RTS games. So things like, take for instance, like Company Heroes, which I'm a big fan of, or Warhammer 40K, things along those lines. You can have your customized profiles, but then maybe in another game, you've got another set of profiles, and you can just switch between profile 1, profile 2, profile 3, profile 4, profile 5, right? Of course, being a gaming focused product, right, and really for the highest level of performance, you have 8,000 hertz polling support. Now, keep in mind that for 8,000 hertz, if you've got an older system, I don't recommend engaging 8,000 hertz. I would really only recommend it on a high performance USB 3, Gen 1 enabled system. So you would want to be looking at least, I'd say, like a Ryzen 5, like 3600, if not even maybe something like a 5000, like a 5600 series based CPU. And similarly, I probably say at least 10th gen, if not 11th gen Intel based platform. So something like a 10600K, 11600K, something along those lines. The main reason being is you have to think about it is that the more data you're sending through the USB port, there's actually processing that has to happen from the CPU side. So there's an overhead penalty. So actually you can be sending up so much data through the IO bus that you could actually be reducing some system performance. And so ideally when you're playing competitively, you want to be able to have the best of both worlds. So you need to be able to have a fast enough system to make sure that this isn't affecting your system negatively or causing kind of any stutters or other type of issues. Also, being transparent, not all games are going to support ultra high polling rate. It's very similar, like some games don't support ultra high refresh rates. So you want to actually also double check and make sure that your game you're running actually can correctly support that. For most users though, you can have an amazing experience at the 1K polling. 2K polling is a really nice kind of intermediate option, similar. Sometimes people do that on the mice as well side, where they might not jump all the way to something maybe like 8K, maybe they might do 2K, or maybe they might run 4K. But same thing, anytime you're going to be running that ultra high polling rate, do keep in mind the CPU performance that you have available to you. If it's not fast enough, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, you can still, again, have a great experience, but I wouldn't recommend enabling that unless you have a performant enough system to be able to make sure that it's not going to be affecting you negatively if you do enable it, okay? Speaking of, though, the overall kind of feel and the experience of the keyboard, even though this is a gaming grade keyboard, we're bringing the same kind of attention to detail that we bring to all of our other keyboards. So you're going to have a really fantastic typing experience, really nice and solid build quality. The precision alignment is also really important when a Hall effect model. We were actually the first manufacturer on the market to release a gasket mount Hall effect enabled keyboard. All the other competitors that had models didn't actually have a gasket based design. Part of that is because there's a little bit of trickiness at making sure that the alignment and the magnetic properties can sometimes be a little bit more complicated to implement in a gasket and multi-layered based design. But that being noted here, you have actually 6 layers of dampening material in there to really help to reduce on any type of pinging, reverberation, or kind of negative sounds that would create something that would be less pleasing. So it's a great feel. And also has a great tone to it. So again, this is going to be a keyboard that's going to be awesome to be able to give you kind of that competitive edge, but it's also going to just sound good, and it's also going to feel good. Okay. I would say that while this model does allow for the switches to be replaced, there's no reason to replace them. Our switches are the best in class in terms of their performance, their actuation consistency, the pre-brind gram force deviation consistency as well. There's some manufacturers you might not realize that when you produce a huge number of switches, there can actually be deviation between one switch and another switch and another switch. And this is normal when you just produce something in mass. But actually, ROG takes time to do binning for our switches to ensure a more consistent actuation number between each one of the switches that we produce. So there's a lot of actually details that we go into that you might not realize that you're kind of paying for, but that actually go into something like our ROG series keyboards, as well as even our mice. Love that you also get this really nice form-fitting customized carrying case, of course, with things like your keycap puller, a nice L-shaped braided cable that also comes included in the unit, right? And the model that we have for the US, do keep this in mind that when you're looking at e-tailers, there might be some e-tailers that might get different variants of our keycaps. So PBT is generally going to be offered on our more premium ROG-based options, but you do want to look out for it because there might be some models that might not have PBT. And the real main benefit, if you're not aware, with a PBT keycap is going to be the resiliency for, I would say, one, making sure that the legends never fade because of the inherent design. The double shot PBT keycaps means that pretty much the legends never going to wear away. And then secondary to that is also they're very resistant to any kind of like shine or wear. So like sometimes on a lower quality keycaps, which you'll notice is over a very sometimes it can happen as early as maybe something like 6 months if you're really heavily gaming. Maybe you have a little bit more oil on your fingers, you're a little bit sweatier in terms of your hands, but you can notice you can actually wear away the surface area and you can get a really shiny kind of keycap. And that can be kind of just like, it's a little bit of annoying and it just doesn't look that great. And so if you really want to be able to keep a nice, clean, consistent looking keycap, I would say in that regard is the double shot PBT keycaps really are kind of the gold standard. Last item here to kind of touch on that is pretty cool that sometimes some people aren't aware on is that right now we have a really comprehensive level of control flexibility that we offer for our keyboards. So there's actually 4 different levels for pretty much the latest generation of products. By default, all of our products can, of course, use Armoury Crate, which Armoury Crate is our one-stop unified software ecosystem. So, of course, if you got a motherboard, you got a cooler, you got a mouse, you got a keyboard headset, everything can all be done inside Armoury Crate. Secondary option would be what we call Armoury Crate Gear. An Armoury Crate Gear is going to be for peripherals only. It doesn't actually include other products, and it's going to be for maybe you got like something like an ROG headset or a keyboard or mouse, but maybe you've got another ecosystem for other corresponding components, right? Maybe you have something like a competitor's laptop and you don't have the full AC suite on there, but you still want to be able to customize it. Well, you can have essentially the Armoury Crate Gear. The third option is going to be hardware level control. All of our keyboards actually have hardware level control. So even stuff like lighting, you don't even need to install software to be able to adjust the lighting. You can literally do like the function key and the arrow keys. You can go to different actually pre-programmed buttons that we already have there that allow you to do a lot of things hardware on the fly without actually any software. And the last update that we made, which is for our latest generation of new products, is going to be called GearLink. So GearLink is an entirely essentially software-free environment in terms of you don't have to install it. It's a web-based utility. So you actually launch it, opens up in the browser, and then that allows you to go ahead and have customization to the product. Almost to the same degree that you have with the full kind of Armoury Crate ecosystem. So pretty much you have 4 different tiers. So I think that's amazing. I don't know actually any other company that's offering so many levels of customization for their peripheral ecosystem as ASUS right now, between, like I said, Armoury Crate Gear, hardware level control, and GearLink. And that you'll generally see that on all of our latest generation products as they offer kind of that 4-tier level of control. Okay. So yeah, that is going to be the ROG Falchion Ace 75% HE. I think a great addition here. If I didn't note it, this model, keep in mind, is only a wired based keyboard option. So it is not a like tri-mode based, which many of our other keyboards are tri-mode, meaning that they have Bluetooth, 2.4 gigahertz low latency gaming grade wireless, and also wired connectivity. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this one in the chat there for you guys. And we're going to look at our next actually keyboard as well. So give me 1 second here. And I think the next one is going to be the ROG Strix Scope RX. This one is actually going to be a wireless keyboard. And I'm a really big fan of actually this model. I really like this model. And then again, I like all of our keyboards, so I'm a little bit biased, right? But let me go ahead and put this one here. Okay. All right. And let me quickly see if there's any questions right there. He goes, wired for the win. Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I use my Azoth all the time, entirely wireless as well, but I also have used it wired. So I think for me, wireless is a great option as long as the performance, the stability is all there, right? And so we've actually worked really hard on that. We've had some amazing actually R&D efforts in terms of our team to be able to ensure outstanding performance. It's why we call things our SpeedNova based chipset. And it sounds like marketing, but there's actually a lot of engineering that you have to do in terms of not only the firmware, the RF design, chipset optimization to be able to make sure that you get really stable performance in terms of the communication between the transmitter and the actual device. And then also being able to maximize things like battery life, polling rate stability, and overall latency. So yeah, so yes, for sure, for continuity and consistency and just, that amazing kind of consistent experience, you definitely can't be wired. But, wireless for me has been fantastic on so many of our products that use our SpeedNova based chipset. So Top 3 Entertainment says, I love the Falchion design, but I'm old school. I need a numpad. Well, I think you're going to like the one that I'm going to talk about right here. So let's go ahead and touch on this guy. So this is going to be the ROG Strix Scope II 96RX. So this is an update to one of my prior favorite keyboards that we had in our lineup, which was the actual Scope II 96. And the big reason why I'm a big fan of the 96 is, again, I talked a little bit earlier about how sometimes having a bigger keyboard, it's nice, but the negative is that it kind of adds a bit of this pronation here, and it can cause a little bit of strain. And so I love that we were able to offer that numpad, because I do. I daily drive my keyboard, and for my ASUS, I actually have to have an external numpad, or sometimes, like I said, I would like using my Claymore, which the Claymore has the detachable numpad, which was really nice. But it's nice to have it fully integrated in there, but also still have a really nice compact based design. So this is 96%. It's going to be just a little bit larger than a 75% keyboard, but you're actually going to get that value of having that full numpad built in. Now, this guy is going to pack in actually a lot of really nice feature set, design, and functionality and performance. So the first thing is, of course, you have that full numpad. You also have that nice volume wheel and customization element there as well. This is going to be a full tri-mode based keyboard. So this is going to be wired, Bluetooth, and gaming grade 2.4 gigahertz. So this is going to be sub 1 milliseconds latency in terms of the actual 2.4 gigahertz. So it's an amazing experience for wireless connectivity. But that Bluetooth is nice too. So if you want to be able to have like the 2.4 for like your gaming, but then maybe you've got like a laptop, like here, I've got my laptop, I can of course just have the Bluetooth enabled, and then I can just switch it into Bluetooth mode, and I can go back and forth. So I've got my 2.4 gigahertz low latency adapter for my gaming PC, but maybe I'm using the Bluetooth on my keyboard, on my laptop, or maybe I'm using the Bluetooth on my phone, right? So I can have that nice keyboard flexibility. So this is going to be a tri-mode. This unit does also support what's called our ROG Omni Connect feature. So Omni actually means that you can use one adapter. So the one wireless adapter that comes with the unit to actually bridge between a mouse and the keyboard. So the two items can actually just use one adapter. So you don't actually have to use two adapters for the two devices. So not every single one of our keyboard might support Omni, but most of the new ones all support the Omni feature, where you can actually have one adapter for the two devices. Okay. So this unit, as opposed to using a traditional standard mechanical switch, it's a mechanical switch, but it's optical. So the optical component, of course, allows you to just have that super consistent performance. It's amazing. I also really love the design that we have here within our RX-based switch. I've talked about this a lot more in prior streams. I don't have my secondary camera set up, so I can't show you, but oh, it looks like they're updating the back end there, so to the site. But one of the really cool elements to the actual RX-based switch is, if you notice right here, this kind of stemmed wall design. So in a traditional keycap sometimes has like a cross type stem. And sometimes what this can actually lead to is that there can actually be what's called forced deviation. So what it means is, like, when you're taking that keycap and you're kind of pressing that keycap, if you kind of try, even on your own keyboard right now, maybe try to see if you can notice it, you'll sometimes have the keycap move a little bit more to the left or to the right. And so this is what's called forced deviation, is that it doesn't actually stay consistent at actually all four sides. And so the really cool thing about the way that we designed the RX-based switch is because the actual keycap in itself, instead of being a center weighted, is actually using 4 points of connection. So it really stabilizes that keycap to feel super consistent. So it doesn't matter whether I hit the keycap in the corner, to the left, to the right, it feels really solid. And this is very hard to kind of describe the feeling benefit of it, but I really notice it when I'm doing just touch typing, is that the consistency of the feel between the keycap, wherever my fingers end up landing, just feels super smooth, super consistent. So I love it from a normal kind of typing standpoint, but it also is really nice from a gaming standpoint with that optical, and of course the great lifespan that you have really with optical based designs. You also still get the sound dampening material here, so you get really that reduction for pings, internal vibration, rattlings, things along those lines. Premium keycap implementations, improved stabilizers, the tri-mode connectivity on this unit, and that, again, how I talked about that ROG Omni receiver design. So I think, again, this is a great addition to our lineup. If you want to be able to have a numpad, you want outstanding gaming grade wireless connectivity, you want that Omni functionality, you want the onboard memory profiling, you want high quality switches. Again, I think this is a great option that we're going to have here. This is going to be the ROG Strix Scope II 96RX. And keep in mind that the model that we're actually pretty much getting ready to push out right now will be the PBT variant. Again, so the PBT means that it has that PBT double shot premium keycaps. For many competitors, you'll notice in the market, they don't always offer a premium PBT keycap. They might be using lower quality keycaps that, again, are much more easy for them to either wear out or kind of have sheen or kind of grime buildup over a period of time because of the composition of the keycap. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drop this one in the chat there as well. So does this one have a wrist rest? This one does not come included with the wrist rest. We do have an optional wrist rest that we sell, and we have some models that actually do come included with the wrist rest, but this one does not come included with the wrist rest. And that's actually a great question, though, is that you can actually always go into the included accessories, and the included accessories will tell you whether the model comes with a wrist rest. So like here, I'll show you it as an example. Let me bring up my personal kind of daily driver, which is the ROG Ace Extreme. This is, of course, our most flagship kind of keyboard. It's the best model that we have. It's absolutely just built to a whole nother standard. But this model, you'll actually see, we even showed in the image, it has this beautiful silicone wrist rest that actually comes included with. We've also had other models in the Scope series that have actually included a extra wrist rest. So you can actually always just go into the accessories and you can double check there to see if it actually notes wrist rest if you want to make sure that the keyboard has that. Okay. So let me go ahead and, did I drop that one into the chat? I don't remember, guys. So I guess I'll just drop it in there twice. I love the physical volume knob wheel. Yeah, I think it's really nice. I mean, we have the buttons on the keyboard that allow you to still do the media management. So you can do like pause, play, volume on the keycaps, which actually I don't mind that at all. And on the ASUS, I really love the ASUS because the ASUS also has the little nub right there that you can adjust the volume on, and I use that all the time. But yeah, I also like the little wheel. The wheel is just nice and convenient. It just makes things smooth in terms of that. Yeah, the quieter the keyboard, you don't want that picking up on a mic. I definitely agree. Yeah, that's kind of one of those subtle things. I wonder, like, if you guys can you hear mine right now? I customized mine a little bit, but I'm using right here the ASUS. Can you type this? My mic, as you can see, is right here, but let's just see here. So I don't know. Tell me if you guys can hear. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll go to the next one. So this one is a new update. This one is not yet available, but it'll be available very shortly, probably in about the next 2 weeks in terms of its availability. But this one I'm actually really excited about. This is going to be the ROG Cetra Open Wireless. And I think this is going to be a great addition here to our lineup in terms of our kind of our headphones and TWS. So TWS is true wireless, right? So let's go ahead and take a look here. All right, so the ROG Cetra Open Wireless. So I'd love to know right now from you guys, how many of you are using some form of in-ear TWSs? So of course, we already have the Cetra TWSs, the Speed Novas. Actually, I think they're quite nice. I actually use them almost every day. But I will say I'm one of those people that maybe it's just my preference from so many years of using over-the-ear headphones. I have a preference of I like over-the-ear more than I like in-ear. The in-ear is definitely convenient, right? Because when I'm on traveling or on the go or I want something super compact, it's nice. But definitely I think that pronounced kind of sometimes internal ear pressure and having something inside your ear is something I'm not the biggest fan of. So definitely I would say after a period of time, especially maybe like an hour and a half, I usually don't want to have kind of earbuds in my ear anymore. And I've definitely found that with, I think, a more open-based design, they're far more comfortable, they breathe better, right? And you can wear them for a longer period of time. Definitely the challenge is being able to make sure that they're not only comfortable, but they actually have good sound quality. And I think that was the main issue that for quite some time, I definitely think elements like the bass performance and the overall sound driver performance wasn't as strong as you would have traditional with a traditional in-ear bass TWS product. So that was our goal. Is we took a while to kind of design and develop something like this, but I'm really happy to be able to see that we've now added this into the product ecosystem to be able to offer gamers, I think, something that meets a true gamer grade connection. Because a lot of the TWS products that are out on there, even when we first released the ROG Speed Nova, there wasn't really a lot of options on there that were focused at gaming because most of them were using Bluetooth, and Bluetooth really isn't good enough for gaming. Even when you're using like adaptive low latency connection, it's not that great. That's the reason why the ROG True Cetra Wireless Speed Nova editions, right? They have that USB-C 2.4 gigahertz adapter. And that's great because you don't have to do any pairing. You can literally just take that USB-C adapter. You can plug it into your laptop. You can plug it into your Nintendo Switch. You can plug it into your phone. You can plug it into your desktop. bam, you immediately got that low latency connection. You have a great experience. It also has high resolution bandwidth support, so it's even better for music and things along those lines. So it's a win-win. So that's actually the cool thing that you have with this model here, is that you're going to have that same 2.4 gigahertz low latency adapter. So you can immediately go ahead and connect that to any device. There's no software pairing required. You're going to get great stability, great performance. You're going to get that really that bulletproof reliability, right? As opposed to having to worry about Bluetooth pairing and different types of protocols and, you know, different types of revisions or things along those lines. That being noted, if you have a newer generation product that also supports Bluetooth, I love that this has the dual connectivity in the same way our Delta over-the-ear headphones has dual flow connectivity. A lot of users really love this feature where you can have both of those connections simultaneously active. So that means you could have your phone connected with, let's say, like the Bluetooth, but then you could also still have your desktop system also enabled with the 2.4 gigahertz. So take, for instance, if you want to have like a call from the Bluetooth, or you want to have like audio from there and like chat on something else, you can do that. So you have a lot of flexibility in terms of having that dual connected experience. And sometimes people aren't aware that that's also another negative of Bluetooth, is Bluetooth actually utilizes bandwidth when it's utilizing the microphone versus when it would be utilizing your active connection, which is the reason why generally Bluetooth mics generally don't sound as good unless they're just being used purely for voice recognition, as opposed to doing both things where they actually have to provide audio, right? And then also actually record the audio. So being able to have that flexibility for that dual connection experience between Bluetooth and 2.4, I think is a really, really great option. In addition to that, here we have really, really nice drivers. The 14.2 millimeter carbon drivers right here really allow for nice detailing, good soundstage, good treble performance, actually some nice bass extension. When I first listened to these, I was actually pretty impressed by the actual tonality and the soundstage signature, where I was like, actually, I could jam with these. I could use these for general gaming, for music playback, for listening to podcasts, for watching YouTube videos and whatnot. And again, the breathability and the openness and not having to have that pressure on the inside of your ear canal, I think is really nice. That, of course, really cool compact integrated base design, right, where you can go ahead and just drop everything in there. You get your charging support there as well. Quad microphones, and these also support hardware level based AI noise canceling. So there's actually a dedicated chip that does the actual AI noise canceling processing on there, which works really nice from the microphone pickup stage. So that's really cool. Like if you got things like HVACs, dog barking, keyboard typing, or stuff like that, the actual microphones are going to actually automatically process out that information, because there's actually an onboard control chip that will actually process that data and eliminate essentially that supplemental noise. So you can get a really nice, clear and consistent audio pickup on that side. And then of course you have audio customization available to you within the software suite that you have for this unit as well. So this guy's going to be coming in at $229. The ROG Cetra Open Wireless Gaming Earbuds, and I'm very excited about these. I think I might dive these into a little bit more, maybe in a future stream. Maybe we'll do like a live demo where we'll actually go through like the setup process, show you how you can connect everything, show you the actual Armory Crate mobile app and how you can actually do some customization on that, and actually show kind of like some of the cool things in terms of kind of what the current up-to-date ecosystem looks like. Because right now we have a pretty nice range, right? Everything from our brand new planar magnetics, right, which is the ROG Cathara, right? So if you really, really are super kind of want the highest quality audio experience, then you have the planar magnetics, right? Then we've got the ROG Delta 2. That's a great hybrid option, right, where you got Bluetooth 2.4 and even wired connectivity. So if you have your own DAC and amp, then you can go that route. Then we've got things like the ROG Cetra Open, and then we have the ROG Cetra TWS Speed Nova, right, for the more traditional in-ear TWS. So a good range of options there. Let me go ahead and drop this one in the chat there for you guys also. Let me go ahead and see. I think there was a couple of questions right there. Do you guys plan on releasing any creamy switches? I would say that we already tune our switches to kind of be creamy. Creamy, I think, is definitely driven by a couple of things. So things like palm-based material, which is self-lubricating, which allows for it to kind of have that creamier tone and that really nice, smooth, consistent feel. The quality of the actual factory lubrication. So I would say our ROG Snow switches, which are a linear switch, are already actually, I would define them as a creamy, smooth, high-quality switch experience. I can tell you right here, if you really want me to kind of show, because some people might be like, oh, I don't believe, did it. So this is just the number of kind of switch tests that sometimes I'm going through to compare to say how I want to go through. Let me look at different stuff. We can go, here's another one. This is another set of switches. Some more. I got another like 20 right there, a whole bunch of different switches. And I really do feel that we actually have a really great switch that we've developed in-house in terms of its tone, its feel, its consistency, its lubrication. I really argue from our perspective, while the units are of course customizable and you can do switch rolling is tedious and it's expensive. The reality is just even buying one nice set of switches can roll $50, right? I mean, you can definitely get some cheaper ones where sometimes you can get a set of switches maybe like $30 or something like that. But even if you start to roll 2 or 3 sets of switches, you could be looking at $100. Our goal was to make sure that the switch quality and the consistency was very high grade right out of the box. We don't want somebody to have to go buy the keyboard and be like, man, now I've got to go spend money on either taking apart the switches and lubricating them to get the sound or the feel that I'm looking for, or I got to go take out all these switches and then put another set of switches in there, because we feel that that's kind of counterintuitive, right? If that makes sense. While definitely I love the DIY community and I'm a DIY enthusiast to my core, and I love the ability to customize. And even a couple of my keyboards, I've gone through a lot of different switches to be able to kind of see. I think our goal, again, with what we've done with our ROG switches, whether there are Hall effect switches or there are mechanical switches or even the RX switches, which are the optical switches, all of them have been really dialed in to be able to give you a great sound and feel and consistency so that you don't have to go out and buy a switch. You can just feel really comfortable with the switch right out of the box. Any update to the X870 board? No, we have no updates for mini ITX planned. So if you're wanting to do a mini ITX based motherboard, then the ROG Strix X870-I or the ROG Strix B850-I are going to continue to be the primary motherboards for choice in terms of that lineup right there. I have the Cetra TWSs. I love them for gym and gaming. Yeah, I think that they're great units. I really love the sound profile on them. Pro tip for anybody that has the ROG Cetra TWSs, you really want to take advantage of the DRAC function. The DRAC function, you enable that. I think that makes those units sound even better. I think the default profiling is not bad, and definitely you can customize that with the multi-band EQ. But with the DRAC enabled, I absolutely love those, and they're really great actually for a wide range of music. Everything from EDM to rap to rock to jazz, right, to whatever you want. I think they do a really nice job. So yeah, thanks for that feedback there, right? Only use over ears. Ears hurts when using earbuds. Yeah, and I think that's hard. Everybody's kind of got different ear canal shapes and things along those lines. So I totally understand where you're coming from, right? That's again the reason why I think it's nicer with something like our over-the-ear headphones, like our ROG Peltas and Deltas. But I think that these units, especially if you've had a historical issue where maybe you wanted something that was kind of like a TWS experience, but you didn't have to go with an in-ear, then this could definitely be a pathway for something like that. So Joe says, this is my next keyboard is my main. I have the current ROG Falchion Ace FX. The extra F through 112 keys are a nice addition. Yeah, and I would agree, right? That one was a little bit more previous, but I agree. I do like, that's kind of like when you go to that 75% form factor, just having those extra keys are just nice from a daily driver perspective, right? If you're super, super competitive, then maybe you feel like you don't really need those, but I'm with you, man, where I like having just a couple of those extra keys there just for kind of general usability, right? So these are, yeah, not bone conduction. We haven't done bone conduction. Bone conduction is a little bit of a different technology, and I would argue that while there continues to be improvements in bone conduction, you would take a bigger penalty in terms of the overall sound quality experience with bone conduction, right? Let me just see if there's any other questions right there. All right, let's go ahead and go to our next item right here. What's this question? Will you guys ever open the event to the U? I'm not sure what your question is, Sonet. If you can clarify for me, I'll try to go ahead and see if I can answer your question. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. So, can you guys let me know? I did. Yeah, I dropped them in there, right, for the ROG Cetra. And so again, availability for those are going to be coming probably a little bit later. probably, like I said, within about the next 2 weeks, right? And so here, this is not new per se. We did do a little bit of an update in terms of actually different color variant and a couple things, so I wanted to touch on it, but it's also on promo. So I figured because I was going to be talking about a couple of our keyboards, that I did want to drop in a little bit of some information on one of our mice. So let me go ahead and do this one here. So give me 1 second. All right, so now here comes the question is, for you guys in the chat, are you on team symmetrical or are you on team ergo? So symmetrical would mean kind of like that the mouse is even on both sides, and then ergo would be where there's generally a little bit of a hump on the side profile. I generally tend to prefer an ergo-based shape body than a symmetrical-based body. That's my preference, but of course to each his own when it comes along those sides. So let's go ahead and take a look at this guy. So this is going to be the ROG Harpe Ace II. We now have actually a couple of different variants, including the new limited edition model. And we have, of course, black and white. And then we also have kind of the ROG Harpe Extreme, which is, of course, the carbon fiber composite version, which is really super premium. It's more expensive than this one. And it's even a bit lighter than this one. So there's a couple of different versions here, right? We also have the Harpe Ace Mini, right, which is a more compact based version as well. So this is going to be a true ultra performant, flagship level based mouse in terms of not only build quality, sensor performance, connectivity, and overall design. It really kind of has everything along with it. So ultra light 48 weight based gram based design, our bio based nylon, which is absolutely fantastic in terms of its resiliency and its overall feel. Very little, if any, type of movement on this unit. I think really have outstanding construction design to really have it feel super durable, even when you're compressing in and kind of you have a little bit more of a claw structure on there. One of the cool things that we also talked about on the keyboard side that you would want to keep in mind when we're talking about on the mouse side is that even the gram force consistency discussion that I talked about on the keyboard side, we do the same thing on the mice. To my knowledge, we're one of the only manufacturers that openly discloses that we actually do gram force deviation consistency within plus or minus 5 grams for both micro switches. So you might not be aware that when you're actually like talking about like a key, like a mouse. Let me actually go ahead and switch this off because I don't want my mouse to accidentally kill the stream here. But I'm going to remove this one here. This one's the Shocker Max, and I have the ROG micro switches in here. You can tell they're this beautiful transparent red. Nobody can see it, but they look so cool. But normally when you produce these micro switches, there's actually a certain more number of gram force deviation. So like the industry standard tends to be about plus or minus 10. Sometimes it can be a little bit more than that. And sometimes users incorrectly will say things like, oh, that's poor quality control from a manufacturer. And it doesn't actually have to do with anything with quality control. It's just that's the normal deviation, that when you're producing something that has a mechanical element, there's going to be a little bit of variance between every single product that's designed. In reality, that actually happens with everything that gets manufactured. There's always going to be some deviance. Unless you're talking about something super simple where you can ensure almost guaranteed consistency, there's always some deviation. And we actually at the factory, because we were talking about like having a premier type of product design, we said we wanted even a tighter tolerance. So on our side, we actually bin our micro switches in our mice to plus or minus 5 for the left and right. So they feel just as even tighter, more consistent between the left and the right micro switches. When you scroll down, of course, the unit's also going to have some cool things like we've got our standard mode and we have our zone mode. Zone mode, you can see, will automatically do switches to things like optimizing the pulling rate. Will help to maximize that the sensor pulling actually, the sensor responsiveness is always active as opposed to kind of potentially dropping down to save power so that it's the most performant, the most responsive wherever you end up moving. A lot of those items like that. So we have kind of a standard operating mode, and then we got this like performance gaming mode, which we call zone mode. This unit, of course, can support 8K operation, similar to the 8K messaging that I talked about on keyboards. They'll keep that in mind. Class leading performance here, where we also guarantee DPI deviation at 1% or less. Again, I think we're one of the only manufacturers in the industry that is guaranteeing that 1% or less deviation technology. The same item that we talked about in terms of the hardware level controls. So you got Armory Crate, you got Armory Crate gear, you got the hardware level controls on this model, and you also have the gear link. And even the hardware level controls, there's some vendors that don't allow for hardware level controls on their mice. So I think it's pretty cool that we offer that. And even things like the RGB, there's a lot of the ultralight mice that don't even have the RGB. And some people might be able like, it's just RGB, you don't care. Actually, I like having just the RGB just for the battery life indicator, where when I know that it's changing to different battery stages, I like having the RGB light. But plus it also looks a little cool. So it's nice to have it on there still, right? our ROG optical micro switches, right? The tri-mode connectivity, right? You know, the grip tape also, you get that included within the unit. And like I said, it's price dropped right now. So normally 170 down to 130 bucks. So if you guys are interested in picking this one up, check it out. If you guys want more of an ergonomic based option, then check out the Curious 2 Ace. We also have the ROG Strix Impact 3, which I think for the money is an absolute banger of a mouse. And we also updated the Gladius 3 with the Gladius 3 Core, which I think the Gladius 3 Core has been sometimes dropping for like sub 40 bucks or something like that. So definitely some great additions in terms of our lineup, in terms of kind of pricing and things along those lines. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this one in the chat there for you guys as well. All right, so let me go ahead and go to the next item here and quickly see if there's any quick questions on there. No, we'll keep moving things along. So it says Ergo and Ergo. Yeah, I'm Ergo. So for me, I would rather get the ROG Curious 2 Ace because that's an Ergo-based design versus the ROG Harpe, which is a more symmetrical design. But it really depends, right? Like this is one of those things that's it's totally a preference factor, right? Some people like one versus the other. But if you're wondering, this is the Ergo kind of version. You can see right there, there's kind of like that little hump profile that I talked about, right? Versus on the symmetrical design, right? It's a symmetrical type of body, right? Yep. All right. So, will the new Falchion come with a cover base? No, it doesn't come one. So like the original Falchion, which came with that kind of little cover plate, it didn't. Part of that, I think, was some of the feedback from some of the users where I really loved that design. But I think for some of the people that traveled with it, they really wanted to figure out like how to make a more consistent version that would stay on always, as opposed to kind of maybe having to like tie something onto it. And I totally understand that feedback. But for me, like I loved just having my keyboard covered because then I didn't have to worry about dust, debris, dander, or anything like that settling in there. And I do really think it made a difference. But I think our team wanted to go back and rework some of that. So yeah, so the newer models that compared to that original, the more compact 65%, right, Falchion, which had that little cover, you don't get that cover in there anymore. So that is something that you don't see. But keep in mind that Falchion 75 that I did show does come with that nice carrying case. So it's a molded carrying case that you could put it in there. So if you wanted to, you could still kind of keep that on your desk and you could just drop it in there and just zip it up and then you would be good to go. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's that same nice kind of experience where you can just take that cover and just pop that little cover on there like we had in the prior generation. Okay. Okay, so let's go here to some motherboards. All right, we're gonna touch on a motherboard. So continuing the release, like we talked about previously, guys, we're gonna have pretty much new motherboards coming out all the way until about the end of March for the 9 new motherboard models that we announced at the beginning of the year. So again, we have, 5 new X870 motherboards and then 4 B850 based motherboards. So this is the first of the B850 based motherboard updates. And so here you're going to have the TUF Gaming B850 Pro Wi-Fi W. So W, of course, means white Neo. And I think it absolutely looks fantastic. So you're going to have a board that really is going to give you everything you could ask for, right? So if you're looking to be able to upgrade your AM5 platform or build an AM5 based platform, it's really kind of hard to say that there's boards really kind of missing anything. You've got a really nice power delivery design that can run any CPU on there, no issues. You're going to have of course, all of our optimized DRAM-centric technologies on here. 3 USB 2 headers down at the bottom of the board. Best in the industry, 8-point fan control on there. Even competitors like Godlike's motherboard, $1,200 motherboard, which I don't even think you can get anymore because they don't make it in a large quantity, unlike that something like our flagship series like the Hero, which is consistently made to be available. We have even better fan controls than competitors' flagship motherboards on one of our, more entry gaming-based solutions, right? So, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, this is a fantastic board. Also, keep in mind, all of the Neo boards come included with the new 64 megabyte ROM. So that means you have the new high definition UEFI BIOS interface with the brand new UEFI environment, which also looks like Armory Crate. Looks really, really cool. You still get all those really cool updates that we had from the prior generation as well. So things like the Q dashboard technology, 3 PCIe NVMe slots on here, including a Gen 5 slot that you get on there. quick release toggle for the M.2 SSD, which is nice. So we brought that over. Normally in the past, the TUF Gaming hasn't had the quick release for the M.2 SSD heatsink. This one now has at least one quick release there. You also get the quick release design for the graphics card implementation on this model as well. I also like, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize, that we really carefully optimize the design. Some competitors don't do this on some of their board layouts, but some competitors will immediately put like M.2 slots right underneath here. But if you think about that, that's not really not that sensible, because the moment I put in the graphics card, sure, I have that one M.2 there, but now I've blocked those other two M.2 slots. So in our design, even if you put in your graphics card, the actual additional M.2 slots are actually all the way down here at the bottom. So once you remove that heatsink, that means that even if you didn't remove your graphics card, you could still just unscrew the heatsink, put in the M.2 and put that back in there, versus with another competitor's design, you might actually have to remove the whole graphics card and then remove the heatsink to then be able to put the M.2 SSDs, and then you have to put the graphics card back in. So it's actually more work, right? Connectivity is really nice on this unit as well. You can see that you've got 2, 4, 6, 10 USB ports on there, including dual Type-C, plus you've got another Type-C that's going to be here. So this is a 20 gigabits, 10 gigabits, and 10 gigabits, 4 5 gigabits, and then another 2 10 gigabits, and then 2 legacy USB 2, and then 2.5 gig on there as well. Also, I'll make a note that this is kind of a new big update that we just started pushing out to much more of the motherboards, where we really did this first on the Z890 refresh, where we moved clear CMOS onto all of the ROG Strix models, where before clear CMOS, you only had it on the Dash E, and then we brought it down to the rest of the models. And now even in this generation, we have multiple models that even in TUF Gaming have the clear CMOS. I absolutely love that we've been able to do that. So I think that, again, that just continues to add more value and usability, where you got the clear CMOS button on even something like the TUF Gaming series. So really nice I/O. Great aesthetic design, great features, that 64 megabyte ROM. Keep in mind that 64 megabyte ROM also means that the Wi-Fi driver is pre-injected and installed there. So that means that when you install the operating system, you're actually going to have the Wi-Fi driver already be available to you. So then you can download Driver Hub, and Driver Hub will then be able to install all the rest of your drivers. But you don't have to go to another system to download the Wi-Fi driver to be able to then connect to be able to do Driver Hub install to get all your drivers and everything like that. So yeah, super easy, super nice, all good to go there. And other great features and functions all built into this model. Here you can see that new UEFI BIOS firmware environment, which looks really nice, really clean, all high resolution. Motherboard Manager, which I think probably in next week's stream, we'll probably touch on this in terms of actually doing a live demo with this. I think I'm going to probably do a live build. But if you're not aware, ASUS Motherboard Manager is not a replacement to Armoury Crate, but it's kind of a supplementation. So if you don't actually want to run all of the Armoury Crate ecosystem, maybe you don't really care about RGB lighting or management or controls like that, think about kind of like ASUS Motherboard Manager, like an update to our AI Suite utility. So it's pretty much just a super light and very minimal motherboard utility. That's all it does. This is just a utility to be able to kind of monitor values and then be able to do base things like fan controls and things along those lines. So kind of similar, kind of almost like what we talked about with like our peripherals, where we have multiple tiers. You got things like the UEFI firmware, which is based just in firmware. Then you have something like ASUS Motherboard Manager, and then you have something like Armoury Crate, right? The more comprehensive kind of suite. Okay. All right. So yeah, that is going to be the TUF Gaming B850 Pro Wi-Fi 7 Neo, and this one should be popping up. Availability, I'd probably say within the next week to 2 weeks, if not less. Okay, so let me go ahead and drop that one there in the chat there. When is a good time to upgrade mouse? I would say really, if you're happy with your mouse, there's no immediate reason to upgrade your mouse, unless you kind of find that maybe you want to be able to do something. So like I would say before, I had like our Gladius mouse and I was really happy with it, and I didn't find like immediate, but I would say like I wanted to actually have like a simpler connection for one of my systems. So I really liked when I moved over to the unit that had the Omni pairing support, because then I had just one wireless adapter for the two. I really liked having the tri-mode connectivity because I wanted to be able to have Bluetooth where I could switch to Bluetooth for my laptop, and then I could switch to the 2.4 gigahertz for my desktop system, right? And so I really like that. So I think it just comes down to like, is there maybe a feature or function, something that you find compelling or interesting? If you're maybe looking for something like maybe better battery life, if that's something that you want, or maybe even customization, like so many of our mice that have things like the push fit socket, I love the ability that you can change out the micro switches so you can have actually a different type of feel. Again, our ROG micro switches are outstanding, but maybe you want to have a switch that is super silent. So I'll tell you, I actually have like one of my mice. I retrofitted it with Kale Silent micro switches. They actually are not 100% designed to be used in a standard mouse, so you actually have to take a little bit of a file. It only takes literally like 5 seconds, 8 seconds, but I just filed each side and then I was able to put them in there. And it's kind of weird because you literally don't hear almost anything. When you literally click the mouse, you don't hear the mouse. But when I'm working really late, I love using that mouse because I don't even want to hear that. Like, and same thing on my keyboard, I have silent switches, really quiet. And same thing with that mouse, it's super quiet because I just want a super quiet experience, right? Yeah. Does this one come with the Easy IO? No. So that's a really great question. So if you guys aren't aware, let me go ahead and bring up actually two models that kind of like side by side here. So I'm going to show you the ROG Strix, like the ROG Strix model, which has the quick AIO connector design, and then the TUF Gaming model, and that's where you're going to see a difference. So none of the TUF Gaming models, so the X870 model or the excuse me, let me go X870 dash Neo. Okay, yeah. None of the TUF Gaming models, whether it's the B850 or the X870 model, have the new quick AIO connector technology design. So everybody, when you see a question right here that the top three is asking about here, is he's going like, hey, this little connector, if you notice on this motherboard, you'll see these little set of pins right here next to the socket. But if we go right here and we go back to our TUF Gaming motherboard, let's go back up to the image here. You notice that there's no little pins right here next to the socket, right? And the reason why is because with the, let me go back to my motherboard here. Sorry, there's that motherboard that I had. Did I move it away? Oh, I think I moved it away. Oh, no, it's right here. Okay, sorry. Okay, so here, this design, this new quick connector technology design, it allows us to essentially have a corresponding cooler that instead of having to have any wires or cables, so there's no cable for the pump, there's no cable for the display, there's no cable for the fans, there's no cable for the ARGB. Everything is handled through those set of pins. So when you take the Strix LC4 cooler and you mount it to there, it just makes pin-on-pin contact, and that does everything. The pump, the display, the power, the management, the control, all of that is handled through those set of pins. But that's exclusively, right now, only on the ROG-based motherboards. So the new ROG Neo boards or the Glacial or the Dark Hero, they all have that quick connector design, but it is not on any of the TUF Gaming models, and it's not on the B850 models. So keep that in mind. Yeah, so if you want that, you would want to look at one of the new X870 Neo models or one of the Crosshair series models for that feature, okay? So really a good question on that side. JJ, can ASUS add a test function in these new Neo BIOS to check the performance of the AMD CPU and suggest standard, better, best, optimum settings with whatever DDR5 memory it sees that it has with AI? Oh, so Neymar, that's a really interesting thing. And we've actually kind of already done that. All of the new motherboards have a feature that we've implemented called DimFit. So DimFit is a really exciting technology. We actually led the industry in it. Nobody has even anything remotely like this. And it required a huge amount of permutation analysis and machine model analysis that we did. So essentially, there's a microcontroller that's on the motherboard. And once you actually put in the memory, it will detect the different type of memory module that you have in there, the density and the configuration, the CPU, the memory controller quality of that CPU. And once you enable the DRAM divider, if you actually have instability or inconsistencies, you can actually run the DimFit profile. And the DimFit profile, there's actually two stages for it. There's basic DimFit and there's DimFit Pro. And DimFit Pro just gives you up to 20 different variables that you can manually tune as opposed to standard DimFit. But DimFit will actually then take values that we're aware that many users just don't have a technical understanding or aptitude on how to customize for DRAM improvements in terms of interoperability and stability. So this can include things like maybe clock skew rates or maybe specialized kind of subtiming parameters or different types of items that can be tuned. And what the board will do is essentially make these micro adjustment permutations, and it will post and reboot, post and reboot, post and reboot, and it will keep going through all of these permutations. And once it's done, it will dump out its own custom dim fit profile specific to your motherboard, your memory, and your CPU combination. This is a really exciting technology. It first launched actually on Z890. We rolled it on an Intel platform, but we didn't actually roll it out onto AMD. But we've now introduced actually this dim fit and dim fit pro into the AMD based platform. So if you want to talk about the most comprehensive and the best in class memory support, interoperability, and compatibility, along with the best features to be able to get the best experience, there's not any competitor that's going to come close to what we're offering between what we have between DimFit and DimFit Pro, as well as our AMP technology. And then just in general, our validation. We actually have the highest grade of validation amongst memory and IC partners in the industry compared to any of our competitors. So yeah, it's great. It's already there, man. We have an amazing feature in that regard. So tried the ASUS motherboard manager. Start is looking good. Needs a little bit. Yeah, I don't think we're going to probably add in more. If you want more tweaking, you would probably want to use something like Turbo V Core. Again, the balance is that we've already spent a lot of time, and we're just kind of giving an alternate, right? So it's the balancing act of kind of not wanting to put too much in there, just keep it light and minimal. And I think for most users, you know, we're probably going to keep it at that. But like always, we'll monitor feedback, and if users are really asking for something more that we can kind of put in there, we'll evaluate kind of doing it. But I think for right now, you're not going to see anything else really added into the ASUS motherboard manager. And again, to be honest, I think Armored Crate is still the preferred option. Armored Crate version 6, it's lightweight, it's responsive, it's modular, it's super flexible. So I don't think there's a reason to need to do that. This is really just a secondary alternative for people that have just either been critical or not knowledgeable about all the work that we've already done to be able to offer, I think, a great utility with an Armored Crate. So it's just coming down to kind of trying to give more flexibility and choice in terms of how users want to be able to use the product, right? Yeah, Keras 2 Origin is a great option right there. Okay, let me go ahead. Oh, I think actually I need to give me 1 second. Let me try to. Okay. All right. So let's go to our next item here. So where were we at? The B850 motherboard. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to go here to our thermal paste. All right. So this is a follow-up to our pre-existing thermal compound that we released. So the ROG 07. So this is going to be the ROG 05. Performance is still going to be really, really great for this thermal compound. Really nice balance in terms of the viscosity of the application. Keep in mind that the 07 has the kit option, which the kit option also comes with a stencil, where the stencil can be for either Intel or AMD. So if you want to perfectly apply the correct amount, the stencil is a really nice included option, which pretty much when you put the thermal compound and use the stencil will automatically apply out the consistent amount that you would want to use. So that's kind of like the difference between, I'd say, like the 07 to 05. For the kind of extreme users out there, or the users that feel super confident on, they feel that they have their right implementation option, or they don't need the stencil kit, then, you know, maybe go with the 05 and save yourself a little bit of money versus the 07. But yeah, the 05 is going to be coming out shortly right here, and you're going to be good to go. Great performing. I've already been doing some testing with it. Really, really happy with it. Works great for air coolers, for LC coolers, or of course for water cooling setups. So any which one of them, you're all set, you're solid, you're good to go. I'm really happy also with the viscosity of this unit. So yeah, you'll be set. You can pretty much pick it up at most of the standard places where we're also selling right now the ROG 07. And again, remember, the ROG 07 is sold in the standard syringe and also sold in the kit. With the kit, like I said, comes with, like, I think the cleaning pads, and then also comes with the stencil. So you get those things, where the ROG 05, it's only going to just be the base syringe. Okay. And maybe I'll do a demo with it. If you guys want to see like a real like test, like setup and thermal test or something like that, we can do that in maybe the live build, which I'll do on maybe next week's stream build. Although keep in mind that most of the time when I'm doing like a new AIO, if you're buying a new AIO, and I would want to see like how many people do this when you do an AIO. So I'm going to be changing out the AIO on this one, the Prime. I'm going to put in the Strix LC cooler in here. Although I thought about maybe doing the TUF Gaming cooler in there, but All of our ROG coolers already actually come pre-applied with the thermal compound material. So you can actually see right here, the thermal compound material is already on there. So you don't actually need to pre-apply it. And some users go like, oh, I should reapply it because what's on there is actually not good. And that's not the case. The thermal compound on there that we pre-apply is very solid. It's actually been aligned within the warranty policy of also what we already put on the coolers as well. So in reality, you don't need to change the thermal compound, especially if you've got something already like that comes included with the unit. But I know some users just have a preference. They want something better and they decide to go ahead and replace the thermal compound. But are you the person if you got the cooler, do you keep the thermal compound that comes already pre-applied, or do you replace your thermal compound? Like, which side are you on? I'd like to hear your guys' feedback. Okay. All right. And I think the last item here is going to be, speaking of a cooler update, is going to be, a cooler. So we just talked about thermal compound. So we got the cooler over here. And this is going to be the TUF Gaming LC III. It's finally going to be available in the not too distant future. So there are going to be actually two different versions of this. There's the standard version. So there's an LCD model, and then there's a non-LCD model. So keep in mind when you're taking a look at it, you'll see here's like the non-LCD. They'll look identical. You'll see it's a little bit less. So this one's 135. And this one you can see is 165. So it's a $30 price difference. I think for the $30, I would get the LCD version because it's a big, beautiful 2.8-inch LCD display. It looks absolutely fantastic. But the standard one, I think, is a fantastic price. These are really high performance, great quality fans that already come pre-installed on there. These have an integrated fan frame, so it's actually very similar to the Prime series. So it makes it super easy for the installation experience where you don't have to kind of worry about kind of putting in the fans already all kind of preset in there. Really nice static pressure and airflow for these actual fans that are going to be in there. The pump is also going to be upgraded to a 3-phase, 6-slot, 4-pole based design, helping to improve not only the longevity, but the overall performance, and also making the pump quieter. So for some people that are a little bit more sensitive to pump noise, this is also going to be a benefit there. This pretty much fits all of the current generation platforms. So AM4, AM5, and then pretty much all of the current Intel from socket 1200 to the current 1851. So pretty much all of them are supported across the board. You're going to be good to go. This will be available in white and in black, so you can get it in white and black. The white looks absolutely fantastic. The black looks fantastic. I really like the really nice kind of geometric pump head design. I think it looks really clean. Even when you don't have the screen version, just that nice TUF Gaming logo with the RGB lighting, I think looks fantastic. The screen version, of course, has that really nice IPS 2.8-inch base display, which is fully customizable with our new Info Hub software suite, which I think looks fantastic. And again, this unit already has the nice high performance pre-applied thermal compound, the pre-integrated ARGB on the fan frame, which makes it super simple. And then 6-year warranty. So I think outstanding warranty class. For some of the other models in this bracket, they don't actually have that long of a warranty policy. So I think, again, while it's a little bit of a more entry-level product, I think great price to performance, great aesthetics design, and the white model looks great. The black model looks great. And again, if you want to level up and get that screen, I think the screen for that 2.8-inch model at that price point is also a really good deal. So these are going to be all dropping very, very shortly. I think a great addition in terms of our overall AIO cooler lineup that we're going to be offering with the TUF Gaming LC III series. Okay. Go ahead and see here. Any quick questions right there? I purchased the ROG XX70 Glacial. Oh yeah, but when going to release the ROG Strix LC, the ARGB? So the LC should be actually shortly. I think probably it's going to be next month in terms of the availability. So yeah, if you want to be able to go with the ROG Strix LC is actually April. Right now, it's going to probably be around the same time frame as probably the Chronex in terms of the chassis. So it's going to be early Q2. So if you want that really big, beautiful vertical display that unit has, which is absolutely massive, right? It's over 5 inches, has that really nice, clean, simplified connector design, then you're going to need to be waiting until probably sometime in early Q2 timeframe. If otherwise, you would want to go with one of our other coolers, whether it's the Ryujin 3, whether it's the TUF Gaming series, whether it's the Ryu, right? Any of the other white coolers. But I definitely can understand the value. That Strix LC4 looks absolutely awesome with that big, beautiful vertical base design, the detachable pump head, and then the 5-inch display. Yeah, it looks fantastic. But that unit is not going to be, like I said, at earliest probably April. And again, we'll touch on it here in the stream when it's getting ready to hit for the channel availability, but it's not going to be until Q2 timeframe now. It got pushed out just a little bit. Okay. So top three says I keep the original paste that applied on my AO usually, but I do swap out coolers to test from time to time. So yeah, and I would agree. I mean, I think as an enthusiast, again, for most users, what I recommend is there's no reason to change the thermal compound that already comes pre-applied, but it's nice to just have some backup thermal compound for whatever reason. And also depending on your ambient environment, the temperature that you have that's normally running on your unit, how heavily you're actually driving the unit, it's not a bad idea to consider reapplying the thermal compound after a period of time. Good quality thermal compounds, you shouldn't generally have to reapply. I probably say any earlier than probably 2 years. Replying every year would I'd see be very aggressive. But it definitely it is a nice thing to just have there to be able to kind of make sure like, hey, if I need to be able to apply some thermal compound, I've got some that I can go ahead and drop, right? Namer goes, will ASUS AIO come out with an AIO designed cold block vapor chamber anytime? So we already used a AI assisted kind of modeling, but I think a fully kind of customized modeling. We did show off that we actually had some co-work with actually Asetek and some designs that were actually using advanced kind of I think like modeling designs, right? They were taking actually certain telemetry data and then being able to optimize that actually into the cold plate systems. And so I think that that's something that we're going to be evaluating and we're still continuing to look at. As of right now, there's nothing specifically within the product stack that I can disclose, but it is something that our team is continuing to kind of look at and evaluate for future design iterations where we think that it makes sense based on not only the totality of the design, the cost consideration, the thermal benefits that it can apply, and things along those lines. But we're definitely always trying to look at whatever the forefront of the industry is resonant to kind of designs, features, and functionality. If you never shut off your PC, how long would you say the AIO would last? So I think that's an interesting question. If you talk about the overall pump and you talk about like the fan bearings and things along those lines, you should easily be able to meet like I think things like the warranty markers. So that would easily mean that you should be looking at 6 to 8+ years, and in some situations it could even actually be longer than that. Especially I think with the latest generation pump designs, especially I'd say on the Asetek side, which I have amazing performance designs to really be able to mitigate the loss of any type of the internal material that's actually inside of the tubing, where you actually sometimes have leakage, even a very moderate, I mean, not even moderate, but a very minimal amount that can happen. That's what's actually going to cause potentially, I think, failure. All right. When you account then for other points of failure, so things either like the pump or something like the fan bearing or things along those lines are going to be the other factors. But I would really say that a high quality, well-designed unit, you could comfortably feel that if you just left it kind of running, you shouldn't even be questioning that you could easily be running, more than half a decade without any consideration. Again, like that TUF Gaming unit, it's warranted already for even 6 years. And I would say confident that it's probably going to be able to operate closer to probably like 8 to 10 years in terms of that. Again, I think the main thing that you probably would have to value would be probably something like the thermal interface compound material, whether it would hold up for that a period of time, but you could, of course, reapply that. And whether or not you would have anything that would affect the fan hub or the fan bearings, right? Now, some bearings are going to be much better than others, rather whether they have a self-lubricating design, whether they're a sleeve bearing, whether they're a ball bearing, whether they're a fluid dynamic bearing, and even sometimes the axis of the fan placement. Some bearing designs actually are more favorable to be put in different types of axis orientations, and other ones actually get more strain and they can actually cause more failure. So there are a couple of other kind of factors. So it does somewhat depend on the fan and the design of that fan that you would also have to account for in terms of the overall lifespan. All right. Okay. So I think that was my last item. Yeah, that was my last new item that I wanted to touch on there. So the last items that I'm going to just touch on here are going to be some quick promos for you guys. So let me go ahead and drop these. So these are just going to be some quick ones, some quick promos for you guys. If you guys have been interested in maybe finally upgrading some of your networking, we got some great promos that are going on right now. So the first one that I've got right here is going to be the RTBE92U. If you haven't stepped up to Wi-Fi 6E, you haven't jumped into Wi-Fi 7, you got a new phone, you got a new console, laptop, mini PC, motherboard, whatever it might be that has Wi-Fi 6E, so 6 gigahertz, or has a 7 gigahertz, or you just want better, faster Wi-Fi. You want more management options, right? You want more features. Maybe you want multi-gig connectivity, like you want 2.5 or even 10G connectivity. This unit packs all of that in there. And already at its normal price of $250, I think it's an amazing value. But right now, we have $30 off. For $220, you can get one of the fastest routers that we offer. This unit can offer true multi-gig level throughput performance. I've benchmarked this unit at over 2.5 gigabits of wireless throughput. That's insane. That's faster than a 2.5 gig Ethernet cable I was able to do wirelessly, which is pretty insane. On top of that, you get, our amazing best-in-class ASUS WRT firmware experience. There's no paywalls for things like parental controls or ASUS AI security implementations. You can run the VPN on the router for really robust management functionality. Tons of really great stuff. And again, even having that 10G connected experience on this. And keep in mind, all ASUS routers, if you need more coverage, they all support ASUS AI Mesh, which means you can bond them with another router to be even extend your coverage even more. Again, for $230, this is a very, very hard router to beat in terms of its overall performance. Relative coverage, I would say for most users, if you're going to be generally within a space of about like 2,200 to about 2,600 square feet, this should generally get you taken care of without any problem. I've tested out a similar router to this in my home, which is over 2,800 square feet. And generally that will cover pretty much the entirety of my home and even a little bit of my my front yard and a little bit of my backyard. Again, RF environments are very variable. So I would say I would generally recommend this to most users up to, like I said, 22 to 2,600 square feet. And it can work within 2-story configuration environments. But again, as you have more interference, more space, you might need maybe a secondary unit. And again, that's where you can use stuff like ASUS AI Mesh to be able to go ahead and extend that. So again, I think this is a fantastic option right here that, again, gives you full tri-band, 2.4, 5 gigahertz, and 6 gigahertz. You got 2.5 gigabit connectivity. You got 10G connectivity. And it also even has USB connectivity on there. The USB ports are pretty cool because the USB ports will allow you to go ahead and use a backup WAN feature, which means that like if your ISP provider was to go down, you can connect your iPhone or your Android phone to the actual USB port, and you can use your 4 or 5G cellular signal as an ISP connection until your primary internet service gets back up and running. So that's a pretty cool feature. And again, that's all built into no cost. It's all just inside the router and part of our feature set. The next router that I have is a brand new router that we just recently launched, but we have it on sale right now for $100 off. This is an amazing value. This unit, I think, is overall the best price to performance unit. Now, you don't get 10G on this model, but if we talk about speed, functionality, performance, and feature set, this thing is really hard to beat. So this is normally $399. Right now it's on sale for $300. This unit is certified for actually almost about 3,000 square feet. Again, my recommendation would generally probably be closer to about 24 to probably about 2,800 square feet. It would be in that range. Just being a little bit more conservative. Again, you have AI mesh support. This unit is actually going to have 8 ports on there, so 8 2.5 gigabit ports. Also has that same USB WAN feature set. It has our most advanced gaming-centric features, including things like our gaming-centric VPN options that are built into this unit. You also have dedicated gaming ports that are auto-prioritized and optimized. So that means that if you were to connect like a laptop, a desktop, gaming console to that gaming port, it automatically prioritizes that without having to do any configuration. We also do have auto prioritization, which can work for wireless devices in terms of gaming optimization through our quality service feature set. You can just enable the gaming mode and bam, you're good to go in that regard. Really fast, really simple, really easy. And if you're not aware, all ASUS motherboards can also take advantage of something called Game First, which means the router can actually work with the motherboard automatically and prioritize that motherboard to be able to get better overall performance and reduction in latency and overall improve that experience. But I think probably one of the most compelling features that this unit has is ASUS is the only manufacturer on the market right now that has a really exciting technology called AFC. AFC allows you to enhance and unlock even more performance from the 6 gigahertz band, which is normally not possible. So how does it do that? Traditionally, within most wireless environments, there are going to be special signal spectrum that is reserved for like government or special kind of responding networks or specialized kind of, let's say, more secured RF frequencies. And what the router can actually do is when you go in and you enable the AFC technology, it actually will scan your environment, and then it checks actually with regulatory compliance to find out, can it increase the power output of its 6 gigahertz band. If this is available in your area, this is only available in the United States as of right now, and it's not available in every city or location. So it could be available in your space, and it might not be available in your space. So far from users that I've talked to and reviewers that we've worked with, actually every reviewer that I've worked with has actually been able to turn it on and be able to use it. It's pretty impressive. the performance uplift for AFC can be sometimes maybe 10%, 20%, but we've seen cases of 25 to even 50% throughput increases. So that means that and this is actually going to be best realized, not even when you're close to the router, but actually when you're farther away from the router. So an example would be, let's say 40 feet away with one wall, we tested performance at about 400 megabits, which is pretty good. But then when we turned on AFC, we almost had double the throughput performance. So I think it was almost like 900 megabits of the actual throughput. So it was really, really impressive. Yeah, I think the base was actually about 450, and then it was almost about double, almost at about like 900 megabits when we enabled AFC. So it's an amazing feature that we have on the GSB 12,000, also the higher end version, the GSB 18,000, which normally is only a $50 delta, but this one being at $100 off, I would definitely get the 12,000, even though it's a little bit slower than the 18,000. This is still going to be a unit that could easily exceed over 2.5 gigabits of wireless peak throughput performance. So I think a really, really great option here. So I definitely would consider checking this unit out. And last but not least, two other units. We've got the Zen Wi-Fi BD4. This unit is our most entry-level mesh Wi-Fi product. This is only a dual band product at 2.45 gigahertz, but it offers you great stability, great performance, great range. And the range, I think, is really going to be the key benefit for the price in this unit, right? So while you don't get that 6 gigahertz band, you can still have really impressive speeds that could still offer a huge number of devices to connect with you, right? But you're going to be hard pressed to be able to get the range and the performance benefit when you kind of talk about the cost to the number of nodes that you can run. So if we take a look at this one right now, one BD4 is going to cost you $100. And that's going to give you pretty nice coverage in terms of the overall foot. Now, if you wanted to go all the way up to even something like a 3-pack, so a 3-pack would give you insane, consistent Wi-Fi throughput and performance. This unit also has 2.5 gigabit connectivity on there. But let's say we move all the way to something like a 3-pack. A 3-pack is designed for environments that are over 6,000 square feet, or for spaces that maybe have quite a bit of challenges in terms of ensuring really great coverage, even in a space like a 2,500 or 26 or 2,800 square foot home. So if you've got maybe a 2-floor environment, you want to cover your front yard, your backyard, your garage, everything, for $250 to get a triple pack, that's an awesome deal, even though you don't have that 6 gigahertz band. And maybe you don't even need the triple pack. Maybe you'd be okay with 2-pack. The 2-pack at $180, man, that's tough to beat. Again, to be able to step up, to be able to give you fast, performant Wi-Fi, no paywall restrictions like competitors. There's competitors out there that they want to charge you for things like parental controls. They want to charge you for things like a security feature set, right? We don't do any paywalls for those core features. They're all built into the life of the product, right? And you get automatic updates at no cost to you with the best, most comprehensive feature set in the industry. So yeah, I think this is a killer deal, right? Again, $100 for the single pack, right? $180 for the 2-pack, and then $250 for the triple pack, which could easily cover a very, very large surface area in terms of the overall coverage. All right. And the last one that I'll go here is maybe you even want more performance, right? You're a really big power user. You have a big area. You want the most robust feature set. You also want that USB WAN feature support that we talked about, which you wouldn't get on the BSPD model. So you got the BT6. The BT6 is going to be, I think, a great addition here. You're going to see it's about double the price. So instead of $100 for one single unit, you're going to be at $190, right? But triple pack here is going to give you 330. Now, the main difference is that already with the double pack here, that's going to give you almost that 6,000 square feet. So you're going to be at 5,800 square feet. If you went to the 3-pack, the 3-pack down from $600 to $420, so that's $180 savings, you can see is going to even give you over that 6,500 square feet coverage. And also one last thing that I didn't note, but all ASUS routing products have a 3-year warranty. Many competitors in the industry only have a 1-year warranty on their routers. So even on our mesh product, our traditional routers, to be able to give you more comprehensive coverage, I think is a great value set. So yeah, a couple of just items there. I'm going to go ahead and drop the links in the chat there if anybody's interested in any one of those guys as far as upgrades. But I think some really compelling upgrades there, some great promos on the pricing there. So let me go ahead and drop this one. So the first one, we're going to drop in that B92. So Neymar says, love my Wi-Fi 7 router with MLO. So MLO is a really cool technology. Not all devices support MLO, and your operating system also has to be updated. Your driver has to support it, but MLO can allow for an enhanced level of link quality and really give you great performance. So yeah, and yeah, that's pretty awesome. That 6, yeah, from point to point, yeah, with like router to router connection, that is entirely possible. You could be getting 6 gigabits of throughput. That's pretty insane. Yeah, so that's awesome, man, right there. Um, I have a TUF Gaming B460M Plus motherboard, a Dell dock, charger, 130 watts, and I'm using them to connect to my computer. I also have a USB 3 adapter and a USB-C adapter. My question is, will this motherboard and the USB 3 adapter cause compatibility issues? That's a little bit of a tricky one. You know, USB, while everything should be interoperable, the reality is that there's kind of like multiple levels to interoperability and compatibility, everything from the chipset and firmware to also even the driver. Sometimes all the devices might allow for base functionality, but you might have certain types of interoperability or dropout signaling that might require a driver update to be patched, or could require a firmware update for maybe one of the controllers, whether that's the client controller. So that might be the device that you're connecting to, or it could actually be the primary controller. So that actually might be like a UEFI BIOS update. And so it's really, all I can tell you is that you actually have to kind of just test it all out. One thing to keep in mind, though, that there is a key difference between sometimes how people look at USB-C connectivity is that on the PC side of the fence, most of the time USB-C connectivity doesn't prioritize focusing at power. It focuses on data communication. So when you talk about things like the 130 watts, that's irrelevant to the PC side of the conversation, right? The only time that that's really relevant would be like if the laptop or the mini PC or something like that uses a power solution, and then the device that you have is outputting that amount of power and you need to support that. But right now that really only happens with like monitors, where monitors, when I have like a monitor that has like 96 watt power delivery, and then my mini PC would also use like 90 watts to be able to power itself directly from the monitor, if that makes sense. That's actually a really cool feature that we have on our PN54 and our upcoming PN55 mini PCs, is that they can use power from either the AC adapter or from the USB-C connection. But otherwise, in most scenarios, when you're talking about like the overall power experience, excuse me, the experience for the USB spec, you're generally focusing on specifications that have to do with data. And that's the other thing, is that you have to be cautious in terms that sometimes there can be specific protocol requirements for those devices when it comes to those data, those speeds. So there can be differences between like 5 gigabits to 10 gigabits to 20 gigabits to even 40 gigabits. And that can be confusing for some people, because some people think like, oh, well, I bought this 40 gigabit cable, this 40 gigabit device, why doesn't it work at 40 gigabits? And that's because the controller or that other device doesn't support that specification. But generally it should be backwards compatible. So, right. So like if I have a 40 gigabit USB device and I connected it to a first generation USB-C port that's only 5 gigabits, then it should just be able to work, but it'll work down to 5 gigabits. Right. So, yeah, it's without knowing a little bit more about your question, it's very difficult for me to answer. The best thing I can tell you, if you want to just make sure you have the best experience, is update your UEFI BIOS, make sure you have the most recent chipset drivers installed, and then double check to see on the support page for your motherboard manual if we've ever released either a new driver update or a firmware for the USB controller on that motherboard, right? Generally, the driver should be handled automatically by new versions of Windows, so you shouldn't have to have a manual driver that you should install. So it would probably be more so the firmware and the UEFI BIOS. Okay. When it comes to white motherboards, the the ASUS X870-A Gaming Wi-Fi S is the most aesthetically pleasing motherboard I've seen. Yeah, it's a fantastic looking board. I think the new Neo series, we hit it out of the park. Although I would say, man, that TUF Gaming board that I showed, man, I think that's a pretty nice looking motherboard, man. You know, like, you know, let's look at that board one more time. I think that's a very nice looking board. You know, in terms of the aesthetic, really refined, really minimal. We even added more white accents, right? We even did white on the dim slots. But I totally feel you. And the B850 board, like the TUF Gaming, the TUF, what is it? Hold on here. Sorry, I forgot to charge my battery. So the TUF Gaming B850 BTF board, you know, that's also a really, really nice looking board. But the Glacial, that Glacial is probably the end all be all, right? I mean, that Glacial looks absolutely fantastic, but the X870-A Neo, I think, looks fantastic. So yeah, I think our team has done a really great job. I also love this white Apex that I have in there. So I think we've got a lot of really great looking whiteboards, but I appreciate the feedback, man. That's really nice to hear that. Mohammed, my recommendation on that side would be for a more written response is maybe consider joining our PCDIY community. You can actually see that little heartbeat, that little QR code in the top corner. If you ask that question in our community group, then either our moderator or somebody in the group can go ahead and help to answer your question in a written format for you. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. I think that pretty much wraps out our stream. So unless there's any last questions from you guys, then I think that will go ahead and wrap things up. Appreciate you guys joining us for the stream. So unless I'm going to go ahead and open it up, if there's any other questions, let me know. If not, we'll go ahead and close things out. But yeah, I think some great updates. I think next week we're probably going to do a live, maybe a little bit of a live upgrade build, do a tour of the new UEFI BIOS on the new AM5 based motherboards. Also, of course, do any new product announcements. Also, we're going to have the submission form, I think, going up for the PCDIY Builder Spotlight as well. So we'll have the PCDIY Builder Spotlight be back in there. So if anybody wants to contribute their builds to be able to be showcased on the stream, that we can also go ahead and do that. So with that, guys, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day. Best of luck with your builds and have a fantastic weekend. So take care, take it easy. Bye-bye.